You know, they say age ain't nothing but a number, but sometimes it's not just that it's not a number. Sometimes it could actually be an omen. What do I mean? I mean, I don't believe in the witchcraft thing, but sometimes people take numbers and they use it as a what you would call a marker. So if you have 10 and the other person has 10 and they love those numbers, they will think, oh, now we can make something work with that. What are you going to do? Well, I'll take both of them out. But why? Because they like the number 10. That's what I mean by it could be used as an omen. Now, there's why we're talking about that. This is why we're talking about that. There is a new artist on the scene, Tyla, out of South Africa, Johannesburg to be exact. And she has a song that is absolutely just destroying the world right now. It's going haywire to the tune of almost 100 million views on some platforms, and it's just going crazy. Water. I've heard it, but only in pieces like on TikTok. I have not listened to the whole song, but I understand why it might be going viral. The beat's pretty good, and you know, she has a nice enough voice, and it doesn't hurt that she has a good looking face to go with it. Now, with a lot of that happening, it caused us here at Too Strong to look at some stuff. Here's one of the things it caused us to look at. Is there any similarity with her rise in, especially how quickly, in fame to any other artist? And what happened to those artists? Well, there is one that we can make an absolute correlation between. You see, back in the day, there was, I might be aging myself here, that came into the scene by the name of Aaliyah. And if you remember Aaliyah, Aaliyah had the full package. She was good looking, she was a fairly sweet soul, and she could sing. Now, everybody knows that Aaliyah died. We don't know exactly what the circumstances were revolving around it, who was involved, all of that. There's a lot of conspiracy. We're not going to dive into the conspiracy necessarily about it, but what we are going to make is a correlation between her and Tyla. Why? Oddly enough, when Miss Aaliyah left this earth, she left at the age of 22. Tyla happens to be the exact same age. When Aaliyah left, she was dealing with some very big plans to make some very big moves. She had just finished a couple of movies, Queen of the Damned, and I think Romeo Must Die was one of her bigger ones. And then all of a sudden, she takes a flight to the Bermuda Triangle, and bam, she's gone. Okay, but she was starting to rise past just about every R&B artist out there. I mean, everybody liked Aaliyah. There was no negative side to her. I guess the one thing you can talk about was the fact that she married R. Kelly at 16, but was that really her because it got annulled a year later? However, when you look at her rise versus Tyla's, you see some very, very good similarities, and this is one of them. They both have charismatic personalities, and they both have the face to sell, and they both have the voice. They are same age, but here's the one thing I think most aren't looking into. You see, when people like that come onto the scene, there is always going to be what we would call a hater. And sometimes that hater can become so toxic, they want to end you. I am not going to sit here and tell you who ended Aaliyah. I mean, there's lots of speculation because there are tons of people that had vested interest in her disappearing. And I mean tons of people, including an up to, but not necessarily he is, but her ex-husband. Now, when you look at Tyla, she's starting to rise really quickly, and she's becoming loved by just about everyone in the secular world. However, with that kind of rise in fame comes a whole lot more, including the rise in hate. People who don't want to see you succeed. In fact, there might be some people who don't want you to succeed more than their people. Now, we have history of certain individuals. I'm not going to say their name because you know they're going to come back and tell me that I said they're going to do this and they. I'm not saying names. I'm going to let you people infer what I mean and who I'm talking about. There is a power couple who, for all intents and purposes, do not like to see other people thrive higher and more successful than them. I think you might know who I'm speaking of. Even to the tune of one will even have somebody that they want to sign, but they need to test the product first. And the other half of their equation takes issue with them, purchasing or dabbling in that equipment. So what they end up doing is making sure that that person gets sabotaged. I think if you can't deduce who I'm talking about, good for you, but if you can, even better on you. Could they have a hand in what happened to Aaliyah and in proxy have a hand in what may, not saying it will, nor am I saying it should, happen to someone like Tyla? You have to understand that there are people on this earth that do not want anyone to supersede them. They don't want anybody above them. They must be above all, and they must look down on everyone else. And in order to accomplish that, they have to do one of two things: end the person or end the person's career. Now, if that does indeed happen, we can see some very crazy similarities that could pop up. She has until August. That's my prediction. We'll see. We'll see if she makes it past the age of 22. You have to understand that the culture that she's coming up into isn't what most people are familiar with. It is not just a dog eat dog. We're talking about a dog catcher going after dogs. That's what it really is about. There's no longer a middle ground where you can just slide through and make your way on your own steam, make a little bit of money, a little bit of fame, and move on. They want you to choose. Be nothing or be what they want you to be. Not more, just what they want you to be. That could be the system or the power couple we talked about. But in this situation, we have someone who's coming up very young, 22 years old, is not that old, started at an even younger age. I think the most fortunate thing she has going for her is that she's not in America full time. I think if that ever happens, you will start to see some pretty major things starting to move. Now, we all have spoken before about people like P. Diddy and people like Jay-Z and all these other moguls that come up and they Weinstein and they have their entourage with them and they have a way of doing things to make you famous if you have a skill. But the instant you don't become any more used to them, you get discarded. My concern is this. Someone like Tyla, who is still impressionable because she's still young, can easily fall prey to something like that. We'll help you out. We'll get you even bigger deals. We'll make you even bigger than you are. But then one person will say, well, you can't be bigger than me. And you need to end that right now. I don't care how you end it, just end it. Because a lot of these people do not care what really happens to that person, as long as their name is preserved. So I will issue what I will call a concerning letter to Tyla. Please listen. In all of your efforts to become famous, whether it be on purpose or because it just happened because you can sing, please keep your circle of influence in a place where it's manageable. Because what will end up happening is someone will come to you with some grandiose deal that may not be a good deal for you, but will be very lucrative for them, and it may cause the end of your young but productive career. You may not listen to a small podcast like this, but at the same time, you may. It might be the one voice that gets through. Be true to yourself first. Be true to that, and don't let anybody else try and tell you what you should and shouldn't be. That's one. And if you ain't found God yet, please look for him. That's most pivotal thing I can tell you is to find God first. However, if you refuse those bits of information, I just ask that you stay safe and sane, because what's coming down the pike at you because you put yourself in the limelight is a whole lot of jackals. And the one thing a jackal is looking for is blood.